There are kind of two main things that I'm thinking about when I'm approaching the art for oh shit, no! The name of the game is but you're not allowed to know that.
Nice. Cool.
Nice. Awesome. Cheers, Dan.
Okay, so there are a few things I'm thinking about. Well, there are lots of things I'm thinking about with the art style, but some of the things I'd like to talk about are plausibility and diversity. So I want to kind of, I want to provide our gamers with lots of different choices and cater for different tastes in industrial design and spaceship styles. So that's one of the things that I'm thinking about a lot, is making sure that with the different manufacturers, they each have a distinctive direction and their own distinctive look. The other thing is I want them to feel plausible. I think that's one of the great things about good sci-fi for me. It's all about believability and sucking me in and me understanding the logic of this world, and it's one of the things that differentiates sci-fi from fantasy for me. So I'm very keen to try and produce designs which feel believable. So that's one of the key concerns. And there are a number of ways that we're doing this whole kind of like believable and diverse approach to industrial design. There's kind of like three main factors which I'm using to guide the design of the different manufacturers. The first is a sort of unique approach to the art theory for each manufacturer. So an example of that is we've got the rigs, which are very skeletal, make a lot of use of negative space. They're very kind of exposed, quite brutal, and we can apply that quite directly with art theory. In contrast to, say, the NASA-inspired manufacturer, which is all about cylindrical modules, more moulded. The smaller they get, the kind of more moulded they get. Those are quite different applications of art theory to produce diversity in the look of the manufacturers. So that's the art theory. The second thing is use of real-world references. So in order to kind of lend a plausibility to each manufacturer, I'm using familiar design elements. We're bringing in familiar mechanical details and things like that, which the viewers will be familiar with, and they know how they work. So the idea is that when you see these familiar design elements, it kind of, it almost instinctively, it feels plausible. It's interesting because you can't necessarily just do the research and apply the research. I've often seen kind of really well researched sci-fi design, industrial design, which is based off real science, sort of lampooned as not realistic and what have you by users on forums, in blog posts and things like that. The problem is that not all the user base is actually is up to date and informed, and a lot of new technology can seem quite alien and weird. So if concept artists are using that to inform their designs, sometimes it can actually not look realistic or to the majority of the people. So there's kind of a different approach where you want something to look realistic rather than necessarily be realistic. That's not to say that we're completely ignoring science at all. You know, there is a lot of kind of like a lot of our designers are kind of industrial designs and stuff are very engineering focused, and they're very up to scratch. They know what they're talking about when it comes to kind of function with these things, and we do incorporate that. But the main aim is to make it feel functional rather than design actually functioning ships or anything like that.
Like Dan comes over and he wants, oh, let's we're gonna make this type of a ship, or we're gonna make a space station, and then we kind of start, well, you know, what's the fiction behind it, you know, what's the narrative, and then you kind of like look at the tech. And I think one of the things we're trying to push a lot is it's believable space, isn't it?
Functional. We've got to have a reason to do that. Yeah.
And then we kind of bounce it between the three of us, really. You know, so like I'll just do some rapid prototyping in 3D. You know, I'll kind of like throw it at Tim, and he'll be like, "Oh, I hate it," or "I love it." And he'll start kind of working on top of that, or he'll take elements and just create something new, and then it goes to Dan, or we kind of meet together and just kind of look through what we've produced in the day, or maybe in the morning, you know, and then kind of like, okay, well, this is what we want to kind of start zeroing in on, and just kind of attack it.
He usually gives me kind of a visual cue as well. He's very really good at describing how we want something to look, and so I'll take that idea, do some 2D sketches usually, and then once I get the okay from Dan on one of them, I'll take that into ZBrush and then model it, very not on this kind of standard that Alex does, but very kind of like hodgepodge, pushing shapes together in the right place, then take that back into 2D, kind of do all the detailing, and then that final product will be sent to Alex.
I mean, this is what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, isn't it, on this space station?
Yeah, I was going to say, what have you guys been doing for the last week or so, like specifically?
A massive space station.
Yeah,
Awesome.
like bigger than the flagships, which are already massive, so...
It's ridiculous, yeah. It's like a big car park at the moment, isn't it, for spaceships?
Really?
So take something big like an aeroplane, I guess, you know, like a 747, and then you put like maybe 20 747s end to end, and that's how long one of the ships is. You know, and then you have the problem of, you know, conveying scale on something that size.
Yeah, I guess
It's kind of crazy.
You can't like put a human outside like waving at you to get the sense of scale, so you have to get a good kind of shape variation or shape size variation to kind of, well, not trick the eye, but just communicate that it is a large object when you've got no recognizable forms on the outside.
One of the biggest challenges that we have with these ships, that myself and the guys, you know, Dan and the other guys at the team have been trying to kind of get to grips with, is that when you have something that's 2 kilometers long in the middle of a void, which is space, it's very difficult to sell size. You don't have any human size reference. You don't have any environments that you can place the design in to give you an idea of, you know, what it's relative to. So we're basically trying to find ways, it's a mixture of engineering and graphic design, to sell the sheer scale of these ships. We're working almost exclusively in 3D for the most part, and just iteratively bringing together these ships, these modular ships, and piece by piece just assembling something which is more like building a level than an actual vehicle. So it's been a very interesting design task for sure. It's very time consuming, very intensive in terms of just sheer brain power. The files become very heavy when you're working with something as large as these ships. And yeah, we've worked with 3 different manufacturers so far, and not to give away too many details, but I think what Dan really wants to emphasize is these 3 distinct directions for these ships, from sort of very industrial to much more scientific based, and we're taking cues from the real world for that. You know, oil rigs, for one example, for the industrial guys, and then for a convincing sort of scientific approach, we're taking a lot of cues from real world NASA material. One of the things with that material though is that there is no example, especially if you take NASA as a base, there's no example of any design that's more than, say, 200 meters long. So to extrapolate that design language across to something that's 2,000 meters long, and to make it convincing and readable and understandable and cool at the same time, is quite a big challenge, but definitely one that we hope we're tackling, and we hope will generate some really cool designs for the player, for you guys, once it comes out.